What makes a solid horror movie? Is it blood, gore, violence, or is it more? We're about to find out. Hit the button. Let's get started. Misery is about a famous author named Paul Sheldon who was rescued from a near-fatal car crash by his self-proclaimed #1 fan, and he realizes that the care he is receiving is about to become his biggest nightmare. Hey there, hi there, ho there, Andrew here, the horror host of Generations X, Y, and Z inside Davis Manor, where we find humor in horror, and this is where I share my love of horror and entertainment. I talk about TV shows, movies, and on my time working in the haunt industry, so if that sounds interesting to you, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and as we answer what makes a solid horror movie, make sure you go ahead, click the card above, tell me if you've seen this film, and go ahead and leave a comment down below. Tell me what you thought of this film as I give a big shout out to the people that help me produce these videos, the patrons of the channel. And if voting on future projects and reviews, being rewarded with different types of perks, or getting behind the scenes access with me sounds exciting, then click on the link above if you enjoy this channel and find out more. Links are also in the description and at the end of the video. Successful Victorian romance author Paul Sheldon, who is known for his novels based on his character set in the 1800s named Misery Chastain, has decided to launch his post-Misery career with a manuscript for a new novel. And he travels from Colorado to New York, but gets caught in a blizzard which ends in a car crash that knocks him out. And he is found by a nurse named Annie Wilkes, who decides to take him in to her remote home for some R&R. R&R? More like S&M. This film is nuts, and you might have already realized that this film is based off of a Stephen King novel, which is called Misery, and it is pretty faithful. The screenwriter is William Goldman. Of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid fame, and also he wrote the screenplay for The Princess Bride, plus a whole bunch of other stuff. He's really a talented screenwriter. But one of the highlights of this film comes to the director, Rob Reiner. Actually, Rob Reiner is the reason why Stephen King sold the rights to this film. King was so impressed with Reiner's work on Stand By Me, another King film, that he sold the rights to this film. And look at me, I'm just dropping knowledge on you here. Paul Sheldon regains consciousness and finds himself having a dislocated shoulder and 2 broken legs. And while Annie is feeding him and caring for him, she finally gets to read his latest Misery novel. You know, his last Misery novel, the one in which Misery dies at the end of the book, giving childbirth. And that makes Annie become unhinged. Listen, if you know this crazy lady, but you don't know this crazy lady, then watch this movie, because the overly attached girlfriend meme pales in comparison. The following day, Paul, now knowing that Annie hasn't contacted the authorities or his agent, is forced to burn his new manuscript, which Annie didn't like, and now write a new novel titled Misery's Return, where the character is brought back to life. Side note, the original idea for the novel Misery was to have Annie planning out to kill Paul and then feed him to her pet pig called Misery, and then take his skin and bond the book that he has written, and the title would have been called The Annie Wilkes First Edition. Annie in the books is crazy. And from here on, most of the film is Paul trying to figure out how to escape. Like, instead of taking the painkillers that Annie's providing him, he holds on to them and tries to poison Annie, which doesn't work. And he also starts to snoop around the house, finding out that Annie has a scrapbook of all of her murders, and there are a lot of them, ranging from infants to adults, but mostly they're all incapacitated in some way. And all of these scenes where Paul is trying to escape or snooping around are shot beautifully with suspense. I mean, this was shot from an accomplished director, not some meathead.
You are a meathead.
Director Rob Reiner studied Alfred Hitchcock a lot before he shot this, because he wanted to know how to shoot a thriller. And to be honest, you can see some Hitchcockian type of style in this film. The rest of the narrative in this film is paced well. The edit and transitions between Paul and Annie and Buster the Sheriff blend well as we see Buster put the pieces together to a brilliant and fitting end. And I gotta be honest on this one, I really don't like the term edge of your seat when describing things, but man, the climax of this film is going to have you on the edge of your seat. This fits the psychological thriller/horror genre beautifully with its shots and superb acting, which Kathy Bates won an Oscar for. In fact, she's the first woman to win an Oscar for a horror film and totally deserves it. I enjoyed the heck out of this movie and still get anxious when I watch this film. in some scenes more than others. And if you haven't watched this film, I highly recommend it, and chances are you are going to want to get a copy of this for yourself. And that brings us to the danger zone. This is where I go ahead and I score out the different categories that I've been talking about with an overall finish rating. And let's start off with the direction. The direction, I give a 9. Near perfection on this one. Rob Reiner's Hitchcock style is only second to Hitch himself. The subtle shots like angles going down on Paul or up shots on Annie, it gives the sense of weakness and power respectfully between the two characters. It's subtle and it's beautiful. I love it. And speaking of the characters, the acting, let's get to acting. I give a 10 on this one. James Caan and Kathy Bates are the reason why the film is what it is. Their acting methods were completely different with each other. Caan really was a person that did not want to rehearse. He wanted to keep his emotions true on film, where Kathy Bates has kind of a stage theater background at the time, and she wanted to rehearse to get things perfect, right in one take, because that's how you do it in theater. And it actually created a little bit of tension because they wouldn't work with each other on that, which actually I think fits really nicely on film. So let's go to the narrative now. Narrative, I give a 9. Again, near perfection on this one. The screenplay omitted just a few things from the book here and there, which I would have liked to have seen, but then certain things were toned down, and I think that actually gave more of an impact on it. So let's get to genre now. The genre on this one is an 8, and I think it fits the horror thriller genre beautifully. There's not a lot of blood, minimal gore on that, and that's right. Gore, blood, and violence are not the deciding factor of a horror movie. The book, however, is much gorier and horrific, I think, than the film. You can check that out if you want to. Enjoyment, I give this one an 8. Solid movie. It's worth watching numerous times, and I think it still gives you the right tension and suspension even after you watch it. So that means the overall rating comes to an 8.8. And once again, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, make sure you do it. Plus, hit that bell icon. That way you become part of the notification squad and you get notified the moment that I upload. And I will see you in the next video.